Okay guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be going over the electromagnetic spectrum. If you guys hear cat noises in the background, it is Felix and Mr. Peanut Butter fighting and arguing. But ignore it, please. Ignore it. So we were in actual Zoom class, and we were in Zoom, and I asked you, what does the color red and X-ray and a nuclear bomb have in common? And I want to give you guys a couple seconds. What do you guys think they have in common? Oh, so what they have in common is that all of them are waves. So all of them are going to be waves. So that is what they have in common. So what is the electromagnetic spectrum? So the electromagnetic spectrum is what you guys see in the picture. So this is the electromagnetic spectrum, and it is ordered in increasing frequency and decreasing wavelength. So if it was ordered the way this is saying, it will be this way. It will be going this way. So notice that the wavelength, which is this, wavelength is in this sign. So that sign is going to be wavelength. And all it's saying is that electromagnetic waves consist of electromagnetic rays which vibrate, causing waves. So this is the electromagnetic spectrum. And my cats are crying. But this is the electromagnetic spectrum. So we have radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible, ultraviolet, X-rays, and then gamma rays. So that is our spectrum. And this is going to be just vocab. So if you guys don't know the difference between wavelength and frequency, wavelength, you guys probably heard it in math class. Wavelength is the difference between two waves. So this is the wavelength of this set of waves. So it's the between two crests, the difference between two crests. And then this one is going to be this. So this is that wavelength. And then frequency is the amount of times it occurs. So when it says low frequency, it's because it's not occurring multiple times. This one has high frequency because it's occurring multiple times. So when something's frequent, it happens multiple times. So if this has high frequency, it's happening a lot of times compared to the other one. And that is just vocab for waves and frequency. Next, it is, this is gonna go over on the other slides as well, but all it's saying is that energy is correlated with higher frequencies. So the more frequent a wave is, the more energy it's gonna have. So compared from radio waves to gamma rays, which ones do you guys think will have more energy? If you guys say radio waves, that is not the answer. It is gamma rays. So gamma rays are going to have more energy because they are more frequent. They are more frequent. So that is the correlation between frequency and energy. The more frequent it is, the more energy the wave is going to have. So let's just go into waves and what they are. So waves have speed. Obviously, waves have speed. And the amount of speed that they occur is frequency. This is going to be frequency times wavelength, and it's going to give us a speed. You guys don't need to know this. It's not that important. But all you guys need to know is that waves do happen in speed. And if we wanted to change the equation, or if we wanted to, rearrange the equation, we can figure out the other ones. all you guys need to know is that there is some correlation between frequency and waves. So the relationship of frequency and waves, this is where we're getting into the important part. So there is an indirect relationship between waves and frequencies. If you guys don't know what indirect relationship is, we're going to go into what that means. So what that means is that if wavelength is going up, the number of waves or the wavelength, so remember that the longer the wavelength, the longer the wave, the longer the wavelength. So this has a high wavelength, so the frequency is going to go down. Notice that it's not that frequent. Now, if I had something that had very short waves, very short wavelengths, so this is going to be the wavelength. The frequency is very high. So our frequency is going to be very high. So that is what basically was saying indirect relationship is if one goes up, the other one is going to go down. And if one goes up, the other one's going to go down. One goes down, the other one's going to go up. Kind of like a really bad relationship, maybe. So it's still, it says it on the slide. But all it's saying is that if wavelength increases, frequency is going to decrease. If frequency increases, wavelength is going to decrease. So they're indirectly proportional to one another. So as wavelength increases, frequency will increase. The indirect relationship between those two. So wavelength, frequency, and energy. So what are the characteristics of an electromagnetic wave? So short wavelengths have high frequency. Like I said, if we were trying to draw this, let's draw this. Short, let's draw the first one. So this has short wavelengths, so it's gonna have a high frequency. Because remember, frequency is the number of times it occurs. If it has a long wave length, it's gonna have low frequency. Because notice that the longer the wave, the less times it's gonna occur. And that is the characteristics of that. In high frequency, you have higher energy. And we're gonna go into why it has higher energy. But just know that the more frequent it is, the higher the energy is going to be. And low frequency have lower energy. And then you guys are gonna see. So wavelength. So if you guys were going to fill this out, if the wavelength is long, the frequency is low. So if we wanted to draw this out, the wavelength is long, so our frequency is going to be low. So that means it has low energy. So if the frequency is low, the energy is also going to be low. If the frequency is high, then the wavelength is going to be short. So if I wanted to draw that, it will be like this. We have a short wavelength. So our energy is going to be high. High frequency, high energy. Let's go to the next one. We already filled it out. Remember, the shorter the wavelength and higher the frequency, the higher the energy. So the reason why I put Dragon Ball Z is because if you guys ever seen a movie or a cartoon, mostly cartoon, whenever you punch someone, you'd see like their skin making ripples. Like I can't understand it, but if you just see cartoons, you can see like the faster you punch and the harder you hit, the more ripples it's gonna cause, and the higher you know that that's gonna hurt. So you know that's gonna have high energy. And every single time I see anime, you see like the air causing their like, when they move, they have a lot of movement in the wind and all this. And whenever they punch someone, you can see like the actual waves of it happening. So that's why I put this, because whenever they actually fight, I'm not gonna go into it, but all I'm saying is that you can see that that hurts because of how fast it is. So if it's moving fast, then it's gonna have a lot of energy. And that's all I'm saying. That's just a good analogy when it comes down to when we're talking about energy. So if it's moving really fast and it looks like there's a lot of waves happening, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna have increasing energy. And this is just another picture of the electromagnetic spectrum. We have a lot of pictures here. So we're gonna start from the lowest of the low. The low energy ones. So these are, you guys know radio waves. So radio waves is a form of obviously waves, and they are at the very bottom. They're at the very bottom. They're at the low of the low. They have low energy. They're not gonna hurt us. They have really long wavelengths. Look at that wave. And they have low frequency. Look at the frequency here. There is no frequency. These are wavelengths. That is why they do not hurt us. They don't have a lot of energy. Their wavelengths are really long, and they're not as frequent. So that is radio waves. So you guys know radio waves. They're in our radios, of course, TV waves. They're used in devices, remote control items, cell phones. You use them for communication. So we're just gonna go down the list of from low to high. The first one is gonna be radio waves. Second up, we got microwaves. So microwaves is gonna be next on the list. They're bad, but they're not as bad. They're bad, but they're not as harmful. So microwaves is gonna be on next on the list. So all it's saying is only radio waves are longer. So radio waves have longer waves than microwaves. But the frequency is not that high. So it's gonna be low energy. So next we got infrared. Infrared is just heat. So whenever you guys see special night goggles, those goggles that you can see different lights, kind of like this. This is the best picture I can find. That's infrared. Lamps are infrared. Coal, the heat from the coal itself is infrared. We give off infrared. That's why you can see the different lights. When you guys people put on the goggles, you can see different amount of heat being given off. That is infrared. So infrared is after, so we have radio waves, then we got microwaves. Now we got infrared waves. So they have higher energy than microwaves, but lower than visible light. So the next one's gonna be visible light. It already gave it away. But infrared lights are still on the lower frequency. Let's go to the next one. Visible light. So visible light is gonna be the colors that we can actually see. So if you guys didn't know already, every single color that we see is from waves. So when you guys see the color green, the reason you guys see the color green is because when the plant absorbs the light and absorbs the wave, the reason it's green is because it doesn't absorb the wave green, because it occurs at a certain frequency. At a certain frequency, it absorbs all the different colors except for green. That is why plants are green. It doesn't absorb the color green, so it gives it off. And that is why we see plants green. So those are the things that we can detect. So whatever items we actually see with the color that we see is the ones that they don't absorb. So that's the one that's given off. The way you guys can remember this is Roy G. If. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Indigo is just like a deeper blue. So this is from lowest to highest frequency, meaning that the violet is going to have more energy. And this is going to have less energy. And if you guys can't remember why violet has more energy, just know that the next one after this, UV rays, is called ultraviolet rays. It's ultraviolet rays. So obviously violet, that is going to be next to ultraviolet rays. Ultraviolet, extra violet, more energy. That's just an easy way to remember it. Just an easy way to remember it. But visible light is, so we had radio waves. Let's just recap. Let's recap real quick. So we had radio waves. And then we had microwaves. And then we had infrared. And now we had visible light. And then let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. So we got radio waves, infrared, visible light. They skip microwaves. Now we got ultraviolet. Remember that violet is going to be the one with the most energy on the color. So we got ultraviolet now. So ultraviolet, they have higher energy than light waves, which is visible light. And there's a reason why we try to use sunscreen. There's a reason why we wear those UV sunglasses that protect us from the UV rays, because these are the ones we're getting into higher energy. We're getting into higher frequency. These are where the energy starts increasing. And this is where we start getting damaged. This is why we get skin cancer from ultraviolet rays, because the frequency is increasing, the energy is increasing, the damage is going to increase. So we have radio, micro, infrared, visible, ultraviolet. What's the next one? X-rays. So obviously you guys know that X-rays is bad for us. They can cause cancer. The frequency is going up. It keeps getting higher. So the energy is going to keep higher, but the wavelength is going to be decreasing. There's not much you guys need to know, but you guys do need to know the order of this. Lastly, gamma rays. So gamma rays is going to be the highest one. That is just, gamma rays are blocked off by the atmosphere. So atmosphere is a layer on Earth. we can't see it, but it's there. And that's the only way we can block gamma rays. And we also use it in different stuff. But this is the electromagnetic spectrum. So you got radio, microwave, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays. So a recap. I don't need you guys to know what the different things does, like what they do. You guys don't need to know what they do. All you guys need to know is the order of it and how they go from low frequency to high frequency. So if we wanted to recap, just recap real quick. Radio waves, we got those long waves. We got those long wavelengths. And then gamma rays, we're here in Crazy Town. We're here with a high frequency short wavelength. And every single time we keep going, the wavelength is gonna keep decreasing. So it's gonna keep decreasing until we get into Crazy Town. So the inverse relationship between is wavelength is high here, but the frequency is low. And then when we get over here, we got wavelength is low, frequency is high. And remember that frequency, high frequency, equals high energy. So like I said, when you hit something and you see those waves, you can tell that that's gonna hurt. If you punch something and like if you see in the movies, like if you see the movies like in Avengers and you kind of see them like kind of like Thor when he like lands on the floor and all the ground starts shaking and you just kind of see like, you guys know what I'm talking about. But the higher the frequency, the higher the energy. Just like if you were moving really fast, you know that that's gonna hurt. So high frequency, high energy, wavelength is gonna go down and the frequency is gonna increase. If the wavelength goes up, the frequency is gonna decrease. And then we're gonna come out with a mnemonic to try to remember this. So let's go to the last slide. So this is just another picture of the electromagnetic spectrum. And so the mnemonic that we're gonna use, you guys don't know what a mnemonic is. It's just a short way of memorizing stuff based on the first letter of each word. We got RMIBUX. So the way to remember this is red Martians invaded Venus using X-ray guns. So red Martians invaded Venus using X-ray guns. So radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible light, which is the colors, which goes into Roy, G, Viv. And then we got ultraviolet, X-ray, and then gamma. And then also remember that, don't get confused on this. Just remember that you go from violet, we got red, orange, yellow, blue, indigo, and then violet. And then the next one after violet, if you guys don't know if which one has higher energy, red or violet, remember that ultraviolet is going to be the next one. So ultraviolet, you know, a bigger, more extreme violet. And then we got X-rays, and then we got gamma at the very end. So that is just a mnemonic to help you remember the electromagnetic spectrum. And then this is just a quick picture of what we just went over. The shorter the wavelength, the higher the energy. So the energy went up. And if you guys want to see it in numbers, here it is. It goes by the power of 10. And then that's it. That's it for today. And then there's a time to climb, but you guys, we can't do it. Can't do it in this. So that's it for this recording. Please subscribe to my channel.